Let's talk about the MBTI, the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator. Imagine that you got your results and your friend or your partner also got their results. How can you talk about it? So here's a few things to know to start out. Myers and Briggs is a mother-daughter team. Back in the 1940s, they created this thing, and now it's like 2 million of them are administered every year. It stems from the work of Carl Jung, and it's a personality assessment where there are 16 different options. No personality style is better than another, but let's talk about the differences real quick before we get into how you can engage with the person you're talking with about how you're different, how you're the same, and how to have interesting conversations. So first is the EI, extroversion, introversion. The main difference here is, where do you gain your energy? Are you recharged by discussion and engagement? Are you recharged by reflection? Okay, that's where you get your energy. The second one is the S and the N, sensing and intuition. Here we could go, sensing is about details and intuition is about big picture. Then we go to T and F, thinking and feeling. This is about how we make decisions. The interesting thing is we often get to the same decision, but we make it either more with the head or with the heart. And the last, the P and the J, the perceiving and the judging. Judging does not mean judgmental. Perceiving is spontaneous, adaptable. Judging is closure, structure. I want a yes or I want a no. So let's talk about what questions you could discuss with the person as you go through this. You feel free to pause this video as you go. So let's first talk about the E and the I. So you could ask them things like, how do you prepare for an important meeting? It's an interesting conversation. You could also ask, what does a great weekend look like to you? What you're going to notice probably is the extrovert has more things happening. It's not necessarily all with other people, because a lot of this is about a balance. For me, if I am extroverting all day in a program with a lot of people, all I want to do is be alone at night and reflect and be quiet. So it's about some balance. But what does a great weekend look like for you? And how do you recharge after a stressful week? Okay, the next part, so pause there. The next part, sensing versus intuition. What frustrates you in conversations? That's really interesting, because this part, I've watched people recap talking about their vacations, for an example, and people can get really frustrated when they are two different stuff. One is an S, one's an N. Do you prefer details first or the big picture first? This is really important to know about someone you're engaging with, because we tend to have we're one trick ponies sometimes in this kind of way. We're like, oh, I always should start with the big picture because that's what I want. Or someone else says, I should always start with the details because that's what I think is important. And how do you approach planning for the future? Some people are like, oh, I didn't even know that was a thing. Other people are like, I'm always operating with a 3 to 5 year plan. So interesting. Okay, then we go to the decision part about the thinking and feeling. A really interesting discussion with anybody is, how do you define a good decision, right? There's a lot of work in my world about like the art and science of decision making. But first we need to start with that. What would you consider before giving feedback? The way to give feedback to a T versus an F can be really different. And so let's focus on that. And what causes conflict for you at work or in your community or in your family, right? So there's a lot of there's a lot of feelings and a lot of thoughts in this section. And the last one, this one's about structure, right? The judging versus perceiving. How do you manage deadlines? It's interesting because both the P's and the J's meet deadlines generally. I mean, one's not necessarily worse or better in terms of this, but how we get there is really interesting typically. How much planning do you like to do before you do something? How much? How much of it? And how do you respond when plans suddenly change? This one's really interesting because change is a really big topic these days. Apparently, we have more change in the world now than we've ever had before. The speed, the rate of change is much faster. And so, if I was to neutrally say, hey, everybody, we're going to have a change, one of these is typically like, oh, I'm interested. And another one of these is often like, is it going to be practical? Is it a good idea? But we are all complex. One thing to also remember is that we are not just our letters. It's important to recognize we are unique, and our unique cocktail is also important. You can also go onto the internet and just type in like ISTJ or ENFP to see the qualities, or you could put how to engage best with, how to give feedback best to, how to motivate and support one of the cocktails of letters, one of the four sets of letters. So good luck, have fun with this. It's a great way to learn how to adapt and to be in a relationship with people who are different than us. That is part of the main goal. Thanks. Thanks for listening. Bye, everybody.